How is it going, folks? Welcome back to Part 2 Prem and welcome to the start of Season 13 with a transfer special that just so happens to coincide with a World Cup. I think that might make things difficult to sign players, but sign players we definitely need to do. Of course, coming into this transfer window, we've got a healthy transfer budget, we've got a really healthy wage budget. I have, since last episode and the end of the season, wrapped up a few of our better players onto nice long-term deals. Jaime, now on £50,000 a week, but now without a release clause, which is kind of reassuring. In fact, just looking at contracts here for players at the club, you can see the players that have release clauses and those that don't. There's a couple that I'm concerned about, that could be activated. I don't really want to lose Montero, but if £37 million did come in, it would be hard to say no. And I suppose in a similar vein, if a bid of £40 million came in for Tommy Setford, I'd be hard-pressed to say no. And that's happened. Fulham, to kick off today's episode, made a bid. They bid £25 million in clauses. I clapped back with a £40 million negotiation, £20 million up front, £20 million in 6 months' time. And they said, yeah, sure, we'll do that. So this could be happening. I think I have to accept this offer. As good as Tommy Setford is, I just don't think he's a £40 million player. He's been a good player for us. This season in the Premier League, 10 clean sheets is nothing to scoff at. But ultimately, I think I probably can find a goalkeeper of a similar quality. So I am going to hit accept on this. There is one small caveat to mention. He has told me that he doesn't really want to go to Fulham. I'm going to hope he's changing his mind. Of course, at the end of last episode, I was talking all about Kennedy Warunga. He is now at the club. The Kenyan centre-back, 18 years old, looks absolutely amazing. A player who could even potentially play left wing-back. But with his good speed and decent aerial ability, and at the age of 18, I think he is the wide centre-back option in the left centre-back area of our dreams. Elsewhere, of course, we have got the likes of Volder and Schmidt in on loan from Manchester City. Volder potentially available to sign, although his agents told me he's going to want £60,000 a week, which I'm not going to pay. Meanwhile, Yannick Schmidt over here, great player, consistent player, never put in the craziest of ratings, but just been a very reliable player. I would love to bring him back on loan. Apparently Man City want to give him some chances in the first team, and funnily enough, as much as I love him, I don't think he's a £30 million player, at least for us right now. With that in mind, we've got some squad improvements to do. Is Warunga ready to play left centre-back? Am I doing Adam dirty by dropping him potentially at left wing-back? Are these the area of the pitches that I should be looking at this year? You can let me know in the comments. Future Jack's going to go make some signings. But before all of that, let's run the intro. It's a transfer special. You're excited. I'm excited. Let's do this. And you know what, to kick off this episode, I think we will just start on the tactics screen, because when I look at our squad, I think we have an okay squad. I mean, ultimately, we finished 12th in the Premier League this year, but as I alluded to at the end of last episode, this transfer window, I do fear that we might come out of it looking a little weaker than we were perhaps previously, but with much better longer-term prospects. I look at Lemos and how he developed over this year, how much he improved playing regular Premier League football, especially for a player we signed for £1.4 million. And when I look at the gaps in the team, I'd be rather keen to sign players of a similar mould, players that we can get in for the cheap, who maybe are a slight downgrade or more of a sidestep on what we've already got, but are ultimately players that have the potential and have a ceiling that longer term can take us that little bit further forward. Does that mean Warunga is ready to start at left centre-back? Probably not. For now, I'm going to put him here, assuming that we're not going to be able to get Schmid back in on loan. But yeah, centre-back could be the order of the day. Elsewhere in the team, Jaime, amazing at centre-mid this year. Really, really like him. He's picked up, obviously, natural ability now to play that roaming playmaker role and position for us. But at left wing-back and right wing-back, I think upgrades might be needed. Adam would be a fantastic backup left wing-back option, but this year in the Premier League, he didn't really set the world alight. The ever-reliable Luke Volder has been a great option at right wing-back, but given the fact we've got £40 million in the bank, I'd be kind of keen to sign a more permanent option. And when it comes to the player alongside Jaime, yes, we've got some very good younger prospects in the centre-mid area, but I do have question marks over all of their current ability. Someone like Machete, potentially has already hit his ceiling, which would be a concern because I don't think he's quite good enough. Of course, that's not to say I want to sign a load of centre-mids, because there are players like McKillop here who have a load of potential, who have been developing really, really nicely, who I do still want to be able to give the same first-team football to, that we were able to give them this most recent season. You might have also spotted a gap in the striking department. When we look objectively at our team, one area that we certainly struggled in was goals. And besides Gaspar, none of the strikers really stood up and were counted. That's not to say between the likes of James Price, Gadia, Williams and Chilumbu we need to go and sell all of them, but it might be a case of selling one or two of these players, looking to bring in replacements. Chilumbu, I mean, let's be honest, not the most successful signing in the world, got 3 goals in 31 games. We signed him for £6 million. The only silver lining to all of this is he's still valued at more than what we paid for him. So possibility of profit, although at the same time, I kind of want to give him more of a chance. I don't know, maybe that's the sunken cost fallacy. You know, I've invested so much into him and I've bigged him up so much, I want to stick with him to see if he can come good. But yeah, striking-wise, I'd like to get in a new player. I look at that centre defensive mid-area as an area for improvement. I know wing-backs are hard to come by in Football Manager, but I think that is another area of the pitch we're probably going to be hunting for this year. The bank balance is in an absolutely amazing spot. The transfer budget allows us to spend crazily, but ultimately, I don't really want to nuke the wage budget too much this year. I'm kind of setting a soft limit of £50,000 a week, which is what Jaime is currently on. Any more than that, I'm going to start to feel a little uncomfortable. This most recent season, we only had a net spend of around £10 million, which when you kind of think about that in the grand scheme of things and the success we've had is an absolutely crazy achievement. There is value in the market out there. There are youngsters available for reasonable prices, and as much as it'd be easy to go crazy with all this money, I am going to try and be a little bit sensible. Just on the contract front, besides Smid and Volder, who of course are in on loan, we've got the likes of Kavan Williams and Percy Donald, whose contracts are expiring at the end of next year. Not overly keen about renewing these, maybe would look to move them on. Of course, Percy Donald was a useful player for us in the Championship, but truth be told, with some much younger, higher potential, ceiling players in our squad, he's just not been a priority to get into the first team, and yeah, I think his time in the sun's over. And as for Kavan Williams, we gave him a bit of a chance in the Premier League this year. He didn't wow me, and he is earning £17,000. Could I sell him on for a little bit of money? Potentially. Would I look to ship him on if the right offer came in? At 31 years old, with his physicals certainly starting to drop off, probably wouldn't be the worst decision in the world. There are a handful of players with only 2 years left on their contract, but I think the big headline thing really here when you look at our current squad is all of the key players who are at least a main part of my initial and immediate first team plans all have these nice long-term deals. So in terms of the squad building perspective, this summer is very much about bringing in players rather than worrying about what we've already got. Of course, I say all of that knowing that I have just accepted a bid of £40 million for Tommy Setford. Whether or not he's going to want to go to a Fulham side that have just been promoted from the Championship remains to be seen. But, of course, with us being a Premier League club, with us having higher wages on players, the values of all of our players have shot up. And whilst there are a couple of players I'd perhaps mark as irreplaceable, I have to have my ears open, I think, to any bids that do come in. Of course, our new stadium is going to be completed in 2 weeks as well, so plenty going on here at Guernsey. Very, very excited for this summer, but there is the World Cup, and if you've ever managed Football Manager in recent years during the World Cup, players who are at the World Cup don't want to discuss contracts and stuff until they're back, so there might be a couple of players we find that we have to kind of sit on our hands and wait for. This might be a summer where we do have to be a little bit more patient and accept we might not be able to get all our business done super early. So know that there's a possibility I'm going to need to get in a goalkeeper. I think I am going to try and pick up Miller Anthony if we can. Really good Scottish goalkeeper. Of course, a player we were looking at and kind of flirting with the idea of signing last year. I have just thought about the fact he is going to be playing in Scotland and for the Scottish national team, who I think might be at the World Cup. Hearts want £4 million, but they also want Sinisa, who is a player we picked up for 200k from Derby, a prospect who, to be honest, I don't really have a particularly high rating for. So with that in mind, let's see if they'll do £2 million plus Luis. They will. I mean, that in itself could be a really good deal. Is he as good as Setford? I'd say there's marginal differences. I suppose the difference here is that one of the players we're signing for 2 million, the other man we're trying to sell for 40 million. I'm doing all of this. Setford might not agree to go to Fulham, and if that happens, I don't know if I can necessarily expect to get another £40 million bid. Yeah. See, this is going to be a thing, I think. Miller Anthony at the World Cup with Scotland. The World Cup is being hosted in Japan. It starts in less than a week's time, but the reality is this might scupper our ability to sign players. The first few weeks of this transfer window might just be all about scouting players for all the different areas we might want. I guess with Anthony, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world because I still need to wait and see if Setford goes. And if Setford turns him down, then I wouldn't have signed him anyway. But in terms of wing-back options, I would like to address this position sooner rather than later. We have been scouting players continuously. There's not that many great players that have been scouted so far. Wing-backs are just hard to find players in. The one man who has got a decent rating from our scouts is a player who has been on my radar for a long, long time, Leo Johansson. I think we talked about him last summer. Not a bad player. Not really what I'm looking for either, though. There are a couple of players in our first team at the moment who I would be quite keen to sell. Players like Dale Owen, I just don't see having a future at the club. Elsewhere, Blaine Goller, I think we are going to try and get rid of this summer. He actually has a surprisingly high value. I'd kind of be shocked if we were to get more than a couple of £1 million for him, but we'll offer him out and see if there's any bids there. Mason Burstow still has a year left on his contract. No one wanted him before. I've slowly but surely lowered my asking price. You might have even been forgiven for forgetting he's at the club. He is still here, just no one has made a bid on him, so frustrating. Cameron Cooper here is a good player. I mean, I say that. He's barely been playing in League One this most recent year. As good as he was for us back when we were in the Championship, he's not really the solution to the striking problems, and at 28 years old, he's not getting any younger. I'm probably going to just recall him from his loan and offer him out. One player who I've not decided what I'm going to do with yet is Samir Ibrimsimbegovic. First time trying to say that name, I swear. This man had a really good loan spell at Larne, played a lot of first team football, got a load of goals for them because they put him on penalties for a reason I've not quite figured out. I like the look of him. I'm not sure he's a centre-back. With 11 jumping reach, despite his height, I just don't think he's amazing there, but with good mentals and some okay technicals, I'm beginning to think more and more he could be a good defensive midfielder option for us. That's not to say I'm going to be promoting him to the first team to play defensive midfielder and start alongside Jaime, but definitely a player to have on your radar. He had a really good loan spell, would love to see him develop further this coming season. Henry Rojas has been out on loan at Sydney FC. He played okay for them, but the reality is he's just not good enough for us. And valued at between £9 and £11 million, he screams to me he could be the kind of player who we can actually make some good money on. The kind of player that some random team in Belgium or Switzerland or somewhere like that will just bid stupid money on. So we'll see if we can get anything happening there too. Sheffield United have made a bid for Dale Owen, £3 million for a player who is not going to be anywhere near our first team. I don't think is too bad. We signed him on a free transfer, loaned him out this most recent year, played well in the Scottish Premiership, but yeah, I mean, £3 million, we'll take that. Elsewhere, we have had some bids for Rojas, none quite at our valuation, although Fenerbahce haven't put in a terrible offer here. It's £4 million up front, £4.4 million over 3 12-monthly instalments for a guaranteed total of around, what is that, £9 million? Could go a little bit higher with some clauses. I'm just going to accept that. That is a lot of money for a man we picked up for nothing, I don't think. Yeah, signed on a free, loaned him out for 1 year. £4 million up front, I probably would have just taken. £4 million guaranteed over a few years. Yeah, see ya, Emery. It's been good. I will also just reject all the unresponded offers. Given the fact we got a few bids on him, I'm going to lower the asking price to £9 million, because if I could get a bit of £9 million all up front, I probably would take that over the instalments. Big congratulations to Dale Owen. Proud of his first cap. Yeah, enjoy that. You're off to Sheffield, mate. And you might have spotted here, I am offering out Felipe, one of the players we picked up during this season. We signed him for 94k from Corinthians. That was kind of because his contract was running out. We approached to sign him and then just triggered the option to buy him immediately. This guy is a really good player, but, and it's a bit of a big but, he's not really a centre-back and he's not really a wing-back. He's not really anything. He's one of those players who has some decent ability, but I'm not really sure he actually suits any particular role. And because he has a value of between 13 and 18 million pounds, I'm just kind of going fishing with him, seeing if any team wants to bid that kind of money. To be honest, if I could get a bid of 10 million pounds, probably sell him for that. I feared this might happen. Tommy Setford has turned down the option to go to Fulham. I mean, £40 million would have been really, really nice. He might hate me for this. I'm going to offer him out for £40 million. There's no way anyone's going to bid that money on him, but I can dream that someone's as stupid as Fulham. Rojas is leaving the club to join Fenerbahce. Potential fee of over £10 million. We get 4.8 million of it immediately. A good player, but didn't even have a work permit. Probably not even Premier League quality. We snapped him up on a free. We've made some cash. Wheeling and dealing. You'll love to see it. I can't believe I'm saying this. That Rojas deal is actually our record sale I mean, that really puts into perspective, doesn't it, the kind of money we've been dealing with, that a man who's never played a game for us, who didn't even have a work permit, is now the player we've sold for the most amount of money. Just in a little bit of personal news, by the way, I've signed a new contract at Guernsey. I was still on like less than £1,000 a week. I'm now earning £25,000 a week. I'm finally earning what I deserve. You can see my manager attributes here, but the actual reason I've come to this screen, besides to flex with my new wages, is that if we go to the history screen here, you can see the total value of players bought during our time at Guernsey, 29 million. The total value of players sold, £32 million. I've actually made £3 million of profit over all the years at Guernsey. Now, I'm showing this now because that's not going to be the same anymore now that we're in the Premier League. But I think that really is a testament to how kind of, I guess, smart we've been with the transfer business throughout our time here at the club, that we're in a situation where we're in the Premier League. We've actually made the money kind of doing deals. That's kind of mad to think about, really. Dale Owen's leaving the club, £3 million. We are going to take that. I have just noticed that we're not getting all of the money from these transfers. So let me just go chat to the board. Excuse me. I'd like an increased percentage of transfer revenue. They're never granting this, but I can try and request it. I think I have made the decision. I'm going to offer out Chilumbu, and I'm going to offer him out for £10 million. He might not react well. He'll have to get over it. If someone bids more than what I paid for him, I'll probably sell him. Okay, our request has been granted. 100% of any transfer revenue is going to be made available for us to spend. So if we do want to do any big sales, like a potential Setford deal, we don't have to worry about not getting all the money to spend and reinvest. I don't know if it's smart to spend a load of money on a wing-back, but Augusto Sousa here is a Uruguayan. I mean, we've got loads of them in the team already, who I have had my eye on. I've noticed here that Aston Villa have made a bid. It's £21 million, though. Like, is he a £21 million upgrade on Adam at left wing back? I mean, let's compare them. I mean, here's the issue. He probably is a £21 million player, but given where we are, given the fact that I would like a year or two of just frugal spending, I feel like, in the Premier League, just accumulate a load of money before we go absolutely bananas, I suppose I can make a bid, see if they accept it and take it from there. They hate me. I thought if I did it smart with installments, I might have a bit more money to spend. Look, I'll give you that. Still doesn't feel right spending that much money. I'm just curious, really, to find out how much money a week he wants. The other area of concern is actually right wing back, where there are a couple of players we've scouted here, but are any of them actually good enough that I'd throw them in my team? Why has this man been trained as a right wing back when he's left-footed? He must have played for Man City at some point. Yeah, Pep's done that. Pep has ruined him. He's tried to turn Brandon Hughes into Cancelo, and that should be considered abuse. I suppose the other option would be to look at more kind of long-term wing-back options. If there's a younger player we could bring in at right wing-back or left wing-back who could really develop, that maybe isn't the dumbest idea in the world. Cabella here can play left wing-back. Why can this man play left wing-back? Like, he's clearly like a wide man, maybe an advanced playmaker. Who did this to you? Got really, really excited about Adu-Gyamfi here. I mean, he looks amazing. Ghanaian international, 18 years old, very injury-prone, might not adapt to a foreign country. That is enough to put me off. I mean, his injury history isn't terrible, but he is very good. I mean, for 4.5 million, is he just worth a punt? I mean, Teixeira's injury prone, and we've not had too many issues with him, even if he can't jump anymore. And at right wing back, Ryan Hunter's injury prone, and Volder is also injury prone, and that's a gamble I've been willing to take. But it is the Redder super angry injury prone. You know what? 4.5 million. I'm kind of curious to know how much he might want to join us. Let's see. I guess that's a release clause that he has. Yeah, he's got a minimum release clause of 4.5. I'll offer, I'm going to offer 2 million and see what they say. They've come back with 4.5. Can we do like 3.2? So 4.1. Okay, you know what? For 3.6 million or thereabouts, I think Adu-Gyamfi here might be worth a punt. Like, he is a really, really good wing-back, especially for his age. Like, he's only just turned 18 4 months ago as well. When you look at him, he ticks a lot of boxes. It's just the injury proneness. It's a gamble. But then again, is it a big gamble at the price? Not really. He probably is an upgrade on Adam as well, and he has got that long-term potential upside. And if he did get injured, Adam could slot in at left wing-back. And we also have Warunga, who could be the emergency left wing-back option, kind of as a third choice. Not sure I'd ever want to play him long-term as a wing-back, but he could probably do a job for us. I've talked myself into it. Adu-Gyamfi, I want. How does he compare with Sosa? Sosa's in green here, and he is better, but he's also £21 million versus, what was it, 3 point something or other. Yeah, I want Clement. I've decided. I do want to look at the rest of Norgeland now, just to see if they've got any... Okay, they've not got any other players. What about the rest of, like, the Danish national team? Denmark always has good players, doesn't it? I mean, Florentine is the youngest player in their national team, but what about the under-21s? There might be someone here. Gustav Møller's probably the best player in the Danish under-21 team, so we'll get a scout report on him. What I will say is, left-only footedness, he's been trained to play right wing-back. What is going on in the year 2034? Why is everyone being trained as inverted wing-backs? Gyamfi might want a minimum release clause. Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me, son. He's happy to be a squad player initially. Let's get rid of this. I promise you, mate, you will be a regular starter next season. Don't have to rush him in right away. He can prove his worth. I mean, a minimum release clause of 76 million to clubs in continental competitions, I think I can live with. And even the £38 million release clause really isn't that bad. Gonna try and get him on a slightly longer deal for 4 years and get rid of the yearly wage rise. I will up his wages just slightly. Agent fee, you know what? Your agent can have a bit more money as well. Let's get this deal done nice and early. There it is. I'm happy now. It's a punt, but it's quite a fun punt, this guy. He looks amazing. 20 aggression. Imagine how angry he's gonna be. So one thing I haven't talked about, I don't think recently, is the affiliate situation. Of course, we've always had the senior affiliate with Man City until we got promoted. Over the course of last year, we did get 2 new affiliates in Boston and Barnet. Didn't really make use of them. Unfortunately, Boston were relegated from League One. But given the fact they gifted us players like Abu Kamara and Jay Haddo, I feel like I owe it to them to try and help them out a little bit. And as part of my mission to help out my hometown team, who I grew up watching, we've loaned them Ivan Baranok, the Belarusian player, who looks very good and has been granted a work permit to go and play for them. I feel like he's absolutely going to tear it up in League 2. Could be the first of many players we send on loan to them. I kind of want to make it a side quest during my time here at Guernsey to get Boston to the Premier League by loaning them players. I just feel like that would be quite fun. I am now sat thinking, who else could I actually loan them? Mason Burstow, mate. You know what? You'd have a lovely time in Boston for the year. I guarantee it. Go and enjoy yourself with them to the end of the season. Having now seen some of the teams that are going in for Sosa, probably in my best interest that I didn't get my hopes up too much about signing him. Yeah, time to move on, I think. I say that, not going to withdraw our transfer bid. I want to see how much he wants from me. I want to get an idea of how much it would cost me to sign a player like him. Clermont have come back and they've asked for 23 million over 3 years. I can't do that. Some good news, though. We're waiting on a work permit for Adu-Gyamfi, so he's agreed to join us. We'll know in a day or two's time, but given the fact he's playing for Ghana's national team, no concerns here about him joining us. And another thing to consider, actually, is the fact that Kennedy Abubakari, of course, plays for Ghana too. We're getting a little Ghanaian contingent going in the team, which I kind of like the idea of. Am I now potentially looking at other Ghanaians I could sign? No comment, Your Honour. Enoch Solimana here is not bad, but I don't really need more centre mids, and he's not really an upgrade on what we've already got. Okay, Adu-Gyamfi is joining the club. Very excited about this deal. For £3.6 million with his injury proneness, I can take it as a bit of a punt, bit of a risk. I wouldn't be doing this unless I had faith that Adam could be a good option in at left-back as an alternative. But I think when you look at his current ability, when you look at his potential... Yeah, for the price that we paid, it's a very good deal. So I have slotted Gyamfi into the starting 11, at least for now. I think he's a really good option here. Fits that mould of kind of players who I think can be the kind of player who can get us into European football with some reliable game time. Still undecided over Warunga. I feel like it's a little bit of a gamble playing him at centre-back, but I just feel like it's a sensible thing to do. And also just with how I play Football Manager, I love bringing in younger players, giving them game time, really being able to develop them as players and they feel like your own, rather than going out and buying the ready-made thing. Not that I can really do that at the moment anyway at Guernsey. If I wanted the ready-made thing of the kind of quality I want, I'd A, have to spend a lot of money, B, have to offer them a load of wages, and C, they probably just wouldn't want to talk to me anyway because of our reputation. Still need to find a striker, still need to find a defensive mid, still need to find a right wing-back. Just looking at players outside of the first team squad, I'm looking at Schmid and Volder thinking you're probably not going to be here next year. The likes of Dale Davidson, Darren Dixon as well, players who I've got training with the senior team for mentoring reasons. Same with Blaine Goller as well, but ultimately players I'm probably going to be looking to play with the under-21s this year, so don't really include them. Besides that, when I look at players also outside the matchday squad, Peter Morrow, I probably need to start offering out. Percy Donald, I'm not adverse to selling. Kavan Williams, I don't think anyone's going to bid the kind of money I would like to get for him. And also, I don't know about anyone else, I get very sentimental with Football Manager. Selling Kevan Williams would make me sad. If you're wondering how my mentoring groups are set up at the moment, they are set up like this. Dale Davidson was an ambitious, now just has low determination, which I'm hoping can improve with time. A few years ago in Football Manager, longer term players will remember tutoring. It was a really effective way of moulding players, perhaps unrealistically so. You could kind of take a player with no determination and get them to 20 determination over a course of a few years. Davidson has seen some changes with the additions of Warunga and Adu-Gyamfi. I've slotted them into some new mentoring groups. You can see Abubakari's taking this group with his iron-willed personality and good determination. He's a positive influence. And as for Jaime, I mean, he's got 19 determination and professional personality. That is something that is really, really desirable. He is in a group, you can see here, with Montero, who's a mercenary, which nobody likes, as well as Gaspar, who's in this group. I'm hoping to get him less and ambitious, although maybe him being an ambitious is good for us now because he's never going to want to move to a bigger team. And the other player who I have got in this group actually with Jaime is Machete, who is not really as susceptible to changes, and well, I'll be honest, he's not really feeling any benefit. I'm gonna remove him from the group. Something I was asked about a little while ago in the comments, and I'm sorry it's taken me a few episodes to get here, is the hierarchy and also the dynamics. If you're wondering how things look, here is a pyramid of how the club looks. I mean, Teixeira and Scotty Williams up there at the top. Generally speaking, we've got players with fairly good personalities towards the top, which is great to see. Of course, a few of these players are perhaps players who are going to fall down the influential ranks with them playing a little less football, kind of looking at the likes of Adam, Chilumbu, and also Kevan Williams there. But yeah, despite a turnover in players of sorts, we actually have a reasonably normal looking pyramid of players. Sometimes in Football Manager you do loads of wheeling and dealing, and especially when you're climbing up the leagues quickly, and it can completely mess with the dynamics. It is something that I've tried to be sensible with. So I was initially hoping to sell Blaine Goller, but there's no interest in him, at least for the kind of price that I was hoping to get for him. I don't really want to sell him for much less than £3 million, just because he's got 3 years left on his contract. But we have had a couple of loan offers from teams in League One. At this point, I think the best course of action is just to loan him out. Whilst just looking through players who are transfer listed, a player who's jumped out at me is Super Mario. Yeah, there's a player called Super Mario in my save game. I've tweeted out about him before. I've seen some YouTube comments where people have noticed the fact he's doing stuff. Just to confirm, he's not got a nickname. His kind of in-game name, obviously, is a bit different in terms of the fact it's Mario Gomez Couto, but his shirt name in-game is Super Mario. This man, I wish he was good enough to sign, because it'd be quite fun having Super Mario. Think of the thumbnail that I could do, but sadly, he's not very good. And also, he's a winger. Don't play with wingers, would be pointless. It's the 24th of June in-game. We're on the cusp of the new season ticking over. But before all of that, the new stadium is here. The Guernsey Stadium. It's a stadium that was built in 2034, capacity of 14,000. The moment of truth here is, what is the expansion capacity of this stadium? How big can it be? Because this stadium was arranged to be built when we were just in the Championship. I'm scared that it's going to be limited to like 20,000 seats, and we're going to have to build a new stadium. In Football Manager, it used to be you could only get a new stadium every 20 years. That changed last year for situations like this. Here's the moment of truth. Detailed view. Okay, expansion capacity 28,000. I mean, that's not terrible. That's kind of better than I feared. We could double the size of it before we need to move. And I guess in itself, it's just nice to be back in Guernsey. I mean, when was the last time we were playing in Guernsey? I'm going back through the annals now. Was it? I think it was when we were in League 2. I think League 2 was the last time we played, and that was back in 2030. So, yeah, 4 whole years since we last played on our own island. We're back home, everyone. Oh, what a special moment. Signing of the season in the Premier League, by the way, Gaspar, £650,000. Not mentioned that often, I swear. Elsewhere, runner-up, Lemos. Think it's safe to say we made some pretty good deals, especially considering both these players are under the age of 20, both putting some good numbers for us. Just going to hope that the young players we signed this year are going to do the same again. You can see the season summary here as well. Man City actually ended up running away with the league. They were just absolutely mad. Having not won it since 2023, Jurgen Klopp came in this year, became their manager, and, well, he made Erling Haaland do Erling Haaland things. 27 goals in 32 games. And you can see here, Man City's goal difference was plus 83. The next best was plus 29, and that was Arsenal's. Yeah, Man City are just very good. But just circling back and putting the focus on us for a moment, biggest overachievers, Guernsey. There you go, we overachieved this year. More of the same this year, I hope. And I believe as we hit continue here and my computer slows to a chug, we're now entering the new season, a new era, Season 2 in the Premier League, and I think this is going to be as harder a season. I think the teams that went down this year aren't as good as the teams that have come up, and in terms of board expectations, they're kind of in line with that. Aim for this year, attempt to avoid relegation. Media prediction for the year, 20th. They still think we're going to finish bottom. And in fact, when I look at the odds, they are the exact same as they were last year. We are 1,000 to 1 to win the league. I wish it showed the relegation odds. I feel like that would be a bit more relevant right here and now. As for the teams promoted, Norwich, Fulham, Aston Villa, 3 pretty big teams in the context of this save game. Teams who have been in the Premier League, have got a lot more money to spend than us, and well, they've been just sponging the parachute payments, having been relegated in recent years, and yeah, they're going to have a lot of spending power. Fulham's overall balance is £76 million. Aston Villa's is only 50 million. I say only because, well, by comparison, it's not as much. When you look at how much they're paying their players, it's still quite a lot of money that they have. And as for Norwich, they've also got £23 million in the bank, having not been in the Premier League in a few years. I suppose of all the teams that have gone up, they are perhaps the weakest. And their star player is still Kane Fullalove, who I did look at signing last year, and if they hadn't gone up, I would have looked at signing this year. Don't think he's going to want to join us now. He's not so full of love for Guernsey. Opening game of the season, by the way, home game, which I love. Home game, obviously at the new ground, going to be against Tottenham. Unfortunately, the next game is away against Middlesbrough, which is an away day we've already done. It's a disaster. I did get an inbox item here about the fact that Bournemouth are making a bid for Miller Anthony. Presumably Scotland are out the World Cup, which is why he's now interested in talking. I say that, they're not even out the competition at all, but for whatever reason, Bournemouth have made a bid, so I feel a need to go in as well. Hopefully he wants to talk to us, or at least hopefully he's going to turn down Bournemouth's advances. I have also just been offering out Setford, just because I do feel like if I could get £30+ million for him, I might be silly not to take it. You can see here, I did actually promise him I'd sell him if a bid of £29.5 million came in, just offer him out for incrementally kind of lower amounts. It's kind of deal that we don't have to do, but if the Miller-Anthony deal looks possible, maybe I'm forced into making this kind of deal happen and moving him on to Fulham or to another club. I was going to say if anyone's interested. At the moment, it's only Fulham interested. You know we're big time now because I've been able to arrange friendlies against Juventus and Benfica. Yeah, that's a sign that times are changing. For people wondering, I have been looking through teams who are relegated and even now just looking at relegation release clauses, but compared to kind of previous years, there's not really players jumping out in the same way there was, say, last year. I say all of that and then I stumble across David Antonazzo. This guy was playing for Bochum. He's a left wing-back. Obviously, we've just signed a left wing-back in Adu-Gyamfi. But if you compare with Adu-Gyamfi, he's probably better and he's very, very good. And to be fair, there's no harm in signing both of these players, especially because Adu-Gyamfi's only 18. I'm looking at these physicals, I'm looking at these mentals, I'm looking at the £2.8 million release clause, and I'm now sat thinking, I hope to God your agent doesn't think you're worth more than £50,000 a week. His agent thinks he's worth more than £50,000 a week. Also, he wants the number 9 shirt as a left wing back. Already don't like this bloke. I'm going to make a bid just to see what his wage demands are like, but I think much like some of the players who were relegated from the Bundesliga last year, it could be a bit of a stumbling block. There's also Babatunde here, who was just relegated with Sheffield United. Interesting player at 25 years old. Don't have a whole lot of knowledge on his strengths and weaknesses yet. Value of 7.6 million seems quite reasonable, really. Only concern might be his wage demands. Also, not entirely sure if he would be worth bringing in at centre-back, just because he would probably be denying opportunities for Warunga, and whilst he is better than Warunga, I'm not sure if he's good, so much better than Warunga that I want to not give the 18-year-old any game time whatsoever, because the reality is, Warunga's probably going to be battling out with Scott Williams to play in the team. If I bring in another centre-back, I don't think Warunga plays nearly as much, and I think he has to play for his development. Okay, Antonazzo, what do you want? You want to be the number 9? I'll just give him it to make him happy, see what his wage demands are like. He's a bargain at 2.6 million, but the issue with these wages is it's not just about the wages I'm offering him, because I know some people are doing the maths. They're going, hang on a minute, you just give him these wages, it's £25,000 a week. Like, you're getting him for so cheap. You're kind of offsetting that with the wages. But the issue is if I give Antonazzo here £70,000 a week, there's probably a few players in this first team who are kind of key first team players who are going to be looking around thinking, hang on a minute, I should be on that kind of money too. And one thing I don't really want to do at the moment is nuke the wage structure. One player I looked at last summer, and to be honest, he's still been on my radar this whole time, is Jorge Gutierrez, another Uruguayan. Something about the Uruguayans in this save game. He's a player who could be a decent option as a bit of a squad player, can play centre mid, can play potentially as a defensive mid for us, although he's not got the best kind of defensive attributes, but he can also play as a bit of a right wing back cover player, which I do appreciate. Like I said, he's Uruguayan. We have a Uruguayan contingent. I'd like to believe that would help him to settle in the country. And he could be available for less than £2 million, which, I mean, if I could get him for less than £2 million, it'd be hard to say no to signing him. He has got this £3.4 million release clause, but my staff reckon we can get him for in the region of £2 million. So I'm going to try and drive a bit of a bargain here. 2.1... I would rather not pay in clauses given how small the amount is. £2.3 million for Gutierrez. Worth noting, actually, in the Premier League, you're only allowed to sign 6 players under the age of 21 from abroad per transfer window. I've already signed 2 of those players. This guy would be another one to add to that list. For comparison, last year, we signed 5 players who hit that limit. Also, not sure why I'm holding my fingers to the cameras if you guys don't know what the number 5 is or the number 7 is if I don't hold my fingers. Look, visual learners out there, it's for you, this one. Okay, Gutierrez wants me to bring in a suitable player to settle, but we already have Uruguayans in the team, so it doesn't really make any sense. He wants to be an important first-team player. I can't really promise him that. How about this? I'm going to have to do some negotiations here. Going to get rid of the release clauses. He's not going to be happy about that. I'll happily offer him £22,500 a week. I'll up the amount of wages he'll go on to, but he has to play 10 games for Uruguay for it to happen. Oh my word, this hurts to look at. I mean, to be fair, he's added a load of clauses. There's not actually a load of money involved in these clauses. I think this is a deal that I can agree to. My scouts like him a lot, and he has got some fairly decent potential for the future. He's a player who could definitely slot in at centre mid. If Blaine Goller's on his way out, he could be a decent option there. He's not exactly the starting defensive midfielder I want, and I suppose between Montero, Machete, McKillop, Abubakari, and Gutierrez, we're going to have maybe 1 or 2 too many centre mids. At the same time, I feel like it's just worth doing it. I mean, the player he's probably going to be in the most competition with is going to be Machete, who is a similar age. Both players who can play centre defensive mid, can play centre mid and also play right wing back. In Gutierrez's case, he can also play centre back, which I don't think I'd ever play him there, but versatility that exists, I suppose. I think what it boils down to is the fact it's £2.3 million for him. I'm not going to get better value for money for that, for this kind of versatile squad player who has a load of potential. What his arrival might mean is that I don't sign a starting defensive mid this year. I pour more of the resources into a wing back and also a pressing forward, and we just stick it out with kind of the Machete Jaime partnership. Of course, Gutierrez is a player who could potentially slot in there and play alongside. McKillop is a player who has continued to develop this year. Really like the look of McKillop. I know some people look at McKillop and how much I big him up and don't really see what there is to like. But he's English, he's either-footed, he's got potential, and he's improved a lot in his time at the club. I mean, when you look at his development here, it has been steady, continual progress over the last 2 years. And at 20 years old, he's still got a few years left in him of significant growth, I believe. I'm pretty certain there's going to be people screaming at their monitors thinking, Jack, why are you signing another average centre mid for £2 million? Well, firstly, he's got potential, as has a lot of our team. And also, with our current reputation, with where we're at, I'm kind of content signing younger players for cheap, doing a bit of wheeling and dealing. I would love to get to £100 million in the bank by the end of this year, have the lowest wage spend still in the league, and have kind of a really steady progress going on. I don't mind if this coming year we don't finish as high as 12th, where we finished last year. I feel like it's almost inevitable we take a step back, but that in itself isn't a bad thing. If we get involved in a relegation scrap, then we start to panic. But even then, come January, we're going to have all this money that we could still potentially spend. And I don't know, as part of the Guernsey project, I kind of like this sustainable approach. So our bid has been accepted for Anthony. Apparently he thinks Bournemouth are a more appealing option, which I find moderately offensive. He wants to be a star player, although apparently I need to promise him more stuff. This happened last time I tried to sign this guy. Look, I'll play you in your preferred position and role as a star player. It's not enough to convince him to do. I don't think there's anything I can add here that's going to make him want to play for me. Like, I'll improve the coaching staff. Aim for this season is avoid a relegation battle. he's never going to sign, I'll walk away. This whole thing is pointless. Sometimes this happens in Football Manager where there's nothing I can promise to make him sign. Has anyone else experienced this? It's not just a me problem, I hope. Some of you might remember there was a Romanian goalkeeper I was looking at last summer. Unfortunately, he went to Stuttgart. Otherwise, I'd probably be looking to sign him. What I'm beginning to realise is maybe I don't need to sell Setford after all. So we're approaching July 1st. I've got a note that I made here. Yes, I've been using the notes feature. There was a youngster whose birthday's on the 3rd of July. I think it was a Croatian centre-back. I think he was Croatian. It's awkward if he's not Croatian now. It's someone's birthday on the 3rd of July, and I think I need to make a bid for them, if they're still good. Call me a hopeless romantic. Call me whatever you want to call me. Remember Brian Davis? Brian Davis was good, wasn't he, when we were in the Championship? Well, he spent a year at Man City and he is available as a possible signing at 21 years old. Is he good enough to play for us? I mean, apparently he'd be a terrific signing. He is 21. He's no spring chicken. I'm not sure if he'd necessarily be the shadow striker of our dreams, but he could play as a more kind of deep-lying forward for us, potentially. I do love his passing. I do love his creativity, and he's a bit of a club legend. I say that. He played one season for us. He's a legend in my heart. I'm not sure I can justify £20 million for him. Let me know what you think in the comments. I should think with my head, not my heart, but it's hard sometimes. Some interesting news here. A player who I've had my eye on a while, Tyrese Bignot. You might remember this guy. He was the 16 or 15-year-old who was absolutely mad at Stoke years ago. I bigged him up. I looked at him. He has actually requested a move away from Stoke, and he is a player who I have flirted with the idea of signing. He's 18 years old. He's got room to develop, either-footed, likes to attempt overhead kicks. What I will say is, he has not developed very much over the last few seasons. He started off with some amazing current ability that looked absolutely mad. And in terms of performances for Stoke, he's not exactly set the world alight, but he is still only 18 years old and he does have a lot to like about him. I just feel like the current asking price of 22 million is too dear for what he is. Like, he's good, and if he'd been developing as I've been monitoring him, I'd be more excited. Just in his current form, less excited. I'm still wondering who this birthday note's for. I think it's the centre-back. I mean, if it's not, this is going to be very awkward. It's like when you get a birthday reminder on Facebook for someone who you can't remember who they are. I have been looking at moving on Cavan Williams. No one wants to sign him. The teams who want to loan him don't want to pay all his wages. So I've made the only logical decision. I'm trying to give him to Boston United, our affiliate. Right, I've got the reminder. It's Volsak, he's Czech, not Croatian. 18 years old, caps for the Czech national team. Has only just turned 18. He looks like a really, really good centre-back. Is he a realistic signing? Is he going to want to join us now? I think the answer might be yes. Let's see how much they want. I mean, given the amount of transfer budget we've got left over, I probably can afford to pay £3 to £4 million for him. Can we get him for like 3.4? We can get him for 3.4 with no sell-on as well. I think that could be a very good deal. Good defensive ability, good natural pace. Perhaps needs to just work on his strength and jumping reach a tad. Consistent. I don't know. I like the look of him. International caps as well already. I mean, check him out. Get it? Check him. He's from Czech Republic. No, move on. £5,000 to £7,000 a week. Doesn't look like he's going to want a release clause. Wants to be a squad player with the chance for that to rise. I don't know if I can necessarily promise him this, but I feel like I should do it just to try and get a signing over the line. He does want these release clauses, but they're rather large amounts, to be fair. Going to get rid of the yearly wage rise. I don't mind keeping these wage after league games in his contract because I don't think he'll hit them anytime soon. But yeah, I think he could be a good depth option at centre-back, the kind of player who I probably could bring in to play centre-back if needed. Certainly wouldn't want him playing on the regular. I say that, but to be honest, when you compare him with Scott Williams, he's probably better than Scott Williams, who has been playing regularly this year. Yeah, this guy's very good at 18, isn't he? I have to sign him. We're getting some good defenders this window. And speaking of signings and defenders of sorts, Jorge Gutierrez, or Jorge Gutierrez, as I believe his name would be said, is going to join us. I mean, this man is more of a centre mid than anything else. Really versatile player, good potential for the future. The kind of player that we're signing for not a great sum of money, £2.4 million. Massive, massive potential to make some big money selling him on down the line. Having signed Gutierrez, I'm not sure why he's considered a 4-star current ability player. Like, he is a very, very good player. I don't know if he's that good, is he? I mean, he is very good, but that good? I'm not so sure. I am thinking with all the centre-backs we've signed, Darren Dixon is probably going to be more of an under-21 player rather than a backup player this year. To be fair, he was a backup last year, but I didn't need to rotate the team that much. With only 38 games in the league, no cup runs, no European football, squad depth didn't really matter as much, and I don't think it's going to matter as much this year. Perhaps a temptation to sell him on, but given the fact he is going to be homegrown at club, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of this coming year, probably worth just keeping him around for a year before I even entertain the thought of moving him on. A player who has been training with the first team, but having now done some mentoring, got a better personality in him, now it's just about hopefully seeing him develop as a footballer. Still could come good. He's only 19. I'm not writing him off, but there's some new defenders in town who are just that little bit better. It's now the 4th of July. We've done quite a lot of transfer business uncharacteristically early this window, despite there being the World Cup. Managed to get a lot of the players that I kind of needed, I feel like, signed. Of course, we have still got potentially signing for us Jan Volsak, who I am now going to just remove the note from because the little yellow square next to his name is annoying me. But yeah, if Volsak joins us, I think he'll be a really good depth option at centre-back. And when I kind of look across the starting 11, still need a right wing-back, still need a striker. Besides that, though, I'm pretty happy with the team we're assembling. I think we've got a good bit of depth. There's a few players like Percy Donald and Kavan Williams I'm still going to try, I think, and get rid of one way or another. But I'm feeling very calm, at least at this moment in time. It's also just quite exciting to look at our team and see if a first team of 24 players, 9 of those players are under the age of 20, and a handful of, well, I was going to say a handful of the others. No, more than a handful of the others are under the age of 25 too. This is a young squad built to last, and it's kind of my favourite thing about Football Manager, watching players develop and building a young team like this. Anyway, I think we're going to wrap things up there for today. Of course, we picked up Warunga, we picked up Adu-Gyamfi, we also picked up Jorge Gutierrez. On the outs, a couple of more squad players moving out. Still a few moving parts going on there. But ultimately, I'm really, really happy with the additions we've made. And whilst our squad is still a little on the big side, there's still potential to sign a whole lot more players if the right players pop up. And sooner rather than later, I am going to make a big splurge on a player. I think tomorrow might be the time to do it. Maybe to identify a young English player under the age of 21 who we bring in, maybe try and develop into the next best thing. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed today's transfer special. If you have, do make sure to drop a like on the video. We are going to be back tomorrow to end the transfer window, to end the week as well. Be here or be sphere. Until next time, it's me, Jack, and I'll see you all on the next one. I'm out.